So no, you can't say that the Roman Catholic system is universally supported by the history of the Church. Furthermore, throughout the years of the Roman Catholic monolith in the Western world, there were always dissenters. There were always those who upheld the true faith, whether you were talking about Waldensians or...
So John MacArthur has said, really this is because there's a weakness, he knows it, in his religion. Because as it started only 500 years ago, what is its link with the past? There were groups, small groups, who preserved the true Christian faith down the centuries. And he mentions the Waldensians. Well, the Waldensians, let's look at them. So we've got Waldensians, just grab up Wikipedia, why not? Pre-Reformation, and the founding of the Waldensians is attributed to Peter Waldo, a wealthy merchant who gave away his property around 1173. So we're in the 12th century, and that was the earliest one MacArthur referred to. So he's still got a problem. He needs a bridge to go from the ascension of Christ in about AD 33 to 1173. It's got to go over 1,000 years. Even if we granted, but I've shown it's not to be the case, even if we granted that the fathers taught Protestantism, the period of the fathers will then say, I said initially, around, say, 600 AD. Could go longer. Could go to the Second Council of Nicaea, 787 AD, possibly. But let's say we take around 700, be generous to MacArthur. He's got to bridge a 600-year gap between the last of the fathers and the appearance of Protestant groups that support his religion. But the gates of hell should not prevail against the church according to Jesus. It should always survive. MacArthur gives no evidence of its survival between the age of the fathers and the Waldensians. But the big problem for him is the Waldensians themselves. Here's a key thing that causes MacArthur a problem. By the way, the Waldensians merged with Protestants later on, but that's not good enough for him. We're back in the 12th century at this point. You'll see it's highlighted. The earliest Waldensians taught the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist and affirmed the necessity of priests for the offering of the Mass. It says, however, they denied the right of sinful priests to give the Eucharist. No matter. That pretty much kills it for MacArthur, doesn't it? You got to believe in the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. He, a Calvinist, denies that. Priests are necessary for offering Mass. Priests in it, well, for Calvin, there are no priests. It's just a Romanist invention. And there's something called the Mass. MacArthur has nothing to do with the Mass. He's your standard worship service man. Worship, praise, preach. And give your offerings to MacArthur's ministry. That's it. That's his Sunday. Done. No Mass. No Mass to be seen. Now, I refer to the earliest Waldensians because it doesn't matter what they become later. They change because of the influence of the times. But when they emerge, that's the only time MacArthur can say they're in their pure form, transmitting authentic Christianity. But they're not. They're transmitting a version of Catholicism, so he can't use them. Maybe he's got somebody else, but he's in a real difficulty now. Real difficulty. Because these were the earliest ones after the fathers. And I showed he's not got the fathers on his side. So where do we go to next, Mr. MacArthur?
There were always those who upheld the true faith, whether you were talking about Waldensians or Anabaptists.
So I've dealt with the Waldensians. So the Anabaptists held the true faith. Okay, let's look at the Anabaptists. Anabaptism. There we go. The early Anabaptists, let's see, here we have. A Christian movement which traces its origins to the Radical Reformation in the 16th century. That's after the actual Reformation. That's after Luther. This is not supporting his case at all. He might as well just mention Luther. This is no good. He's only had the Waldensians so far, and that wasn't good for him. Let's see if he can give us another example, John. Go back a bit to see where we are.
There were always those who upheld the true faith, whether you were talking about Waldensians or Anabaptists or Huguenots or whatever it was. There were
Huguenots, or whatever it was, he says. Let's go and look at the Huguenots. The Huguenots. Huguenots, a religious group of French Protestants. So Protestantism already exists. These are French ones. They held to the Reformed, that is Calvinist tradition of Protestantism. The term may be derived from the name of a Swiss political leader, the Genevan burgomaster Besançon Hugues, who was born in 1491. So the Huguenots are just Protestants. John MacArthur has completely failed to give examples of those who existed after the Fathers, but before the Protestant Reformation and his religion began. He's not been able to show from the Fathers that there were any Protestants or proto-Protestants. I've shown from the New Testament that his religion is not found there. So what is the basis for this religion of John MacArthur? The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. Who knows? Let's finish off with John MacArthur.
Waldensians or Anabaptists or Huguenots or whatever it was, there were always those groups who really were the remnant of those who held to the true New Testament gospel.
So that's the end of John MacArthur. And we can see that this man, who is one of the leading lights of Protestantism, he's been at it for decades. As I said, he wrote a biblical commentary. If anybody can show that Catholicism is false from the Fathers and from Scripture, and the key doctrines of Protestantism which he enunciated are true, that is salvation by faith alone, and that there were followers of his kind of religion before the Protestant Reformation, if anyone can show that, John MacArthur can. But he singularly failed so to do. And one can only conclude that his religion, therefore, is utterly false, totally man-made, totally at variance with Christ's will. Therefore, we can only conclude that one must join or remain as a member of the Catholic Church.